Well, as I mentioned in the introduction, I am endorsed by Missouri Right to Life. I am pro-life. I believe that our most fundamental right is the right to life, and that should be protected from beginning to end.
Fix it here. Well, I am opposed to abortion when it is a primary contraceptive method. I do not believe that that is a good use. I think society should frown upon abortion as the primary contraceptive method. However, when the life of the female is endangered, when in the case of incest or rape, I believe that the females should have that as a legal option. So as one of my friends down at Appleton City said about a councilman that was there, I'm a little bit against it and I'm a little bit for it. So with that provision, I would say that I will not be totally against, but I will not be totally for.
I'm 100% pro-life. I always have been since I've been in the legislature, and I will continue to be that way. I believe that once conception happens, then that is a very, very sacred and important life that we must do all that we can to protect that. I've really been encouraged the last few years that as a state, however, that we've been given opportunities to young women when they're facing unplanned pregnancies. And that's through our pregnancy resource centers. And I've been very, very proud and honored to vote for tax credits to help support our pregnancy resource centers. Here are young women, mostly young women, who are in a very, very difficult situation and who are facing maybe getting an abortion or keeping the baby. And these pregnancy resource centers provide help. They provide counseling. And they do more than just say no to getting an abortion. They help this woman go through her pregnancy, and in many cases the women plan, and they go ahead and have their babies. And so I think it's not enough just to say that we are against abortion. I think we need to give alternatives for these women that decide to go ahead and carry their baby to full term. And so I think that's also part of pro-life. If you can help causes and things like that, like pregnancy resource centers, and again, I will continue to be pro-life.
I'm reminded of a story about Harry Truman, I think of 1948. He was asked some political question on the campaign trail, and he replied, "Forget about labels, vote for yourselves, and you'll end up voting Democratic." And that's often how I feel about these types of issues. I think every woman should have absolute right to make decisions about her health care life and health care decisions. I think President Clinton said it best. You know, abortion, really, it should be a safe, legal, and rare, very rare.
Well, once again, as I said in my opening statement, Ron and I have our differences, but Ron is pro-choice. He's been endorsed by the pro-choice people or the pro-choice organization. I do know he believes that it's women's right to make that decision, and he also believes it's a medical decision.
Next question is, we have several of them here that deal with the same subject, so we'll try to put them all together. And we'll start with you, Mayor Allegri. This is about education. How do you have any ideas for improving education in Missouri, and how would you revise the school foundation formula so that it's more equitable, so that some schools do not get lots of funds while other schools have their funds cut?
Once again, I know Ron's very pro-education. He's always supported any of our educational ballots and initiatives in Slater. I would say that he will go down there and do the best he can for education. And he will also have the experience and the knowledge to get the job done.
This is a tough one. The school funding formula has kind of been a political football, and they've come up with a lot of different definitions of equity and fairness. You know, if it's based on population per school district, or if it's based on area. And it gets back to the rural-urban imbalance of population in the state of Missouri. And I think it's something we just have to address as we go along, and who has the votes to actually be changing the formula, but it ought to be as equitable as possible. It's going to be very, very tough with strict budgetary times. The main force and impetus I've felt throughout the district has been that we need to fund education more solidly and not based on politics, but we have 5 universities in this district and lots of school districts in each of our communities, and we need to support them and constitutionally and statutorily support our local school boards. We don't need to be destroying local school boards and their authority and autonomy to make some of these decisions on how to spend the money within their district, and yet try to provide, you know, the best quality education we can for all of our students.
I talked to a group of school board members Tuesday night this week and told them that the election that we have for school board members in a community is probably the most important election that you'll ever have. Because who sets the standards and the policy for a local school district is so important, because it lasts for generations to come. I served on a school board for 9 years, and that was a great experience to run for state representative. And since I've been in the Senate, I've been the chairman of the Senate Education Committee the last 3 years. And the education issues are tough. It's an honor to be in that position, but they're very, very tough. And one thing we tried to work on this past year was to have a foundation formula that was fair to all school districts. The foundation formula works very well, except when it's not fully funded. And we're in a position now where it's not fully funded. When it's not fully funded, the hold harmless districts gain at the expense of our traditional school districts. And so what we tried to do is to come up with a system where there wouldn't be large fluctuations in funding from the school districts. Didn't get it passed because some of our colleagues in St. Louis filibustered that concept and did not get it passed. But I think we need to go back to that, make sure that our foundation formula takes into account all schools in the state, and so you don't get a large amount one year and a small amount the next year. You know, we need to make sure that when we set a policy, it's good for Slater as well as St. Louis, the smaller schools and the larger schools. And as chairman of the Senate Education Committee, I will strive to make sure that happens next year. Thank you.
Well, I'm an educator. I'm a teacher. I taught both in public schools and at college level. My wife is a retired teacher. We believe that education is very important. The Missouri State Teachers Association has endorsed me and my ideas in education. I believe that the education formula, the foundation formula, needs to be fully funded. Now, with that caveat, where we're going to get the money to put into it, and that's going to be a difficult quotient to be able to accomplish. We need to fund education. Education fuels our economy because it gives us an educated workforce. So I will continue to support full funding of education and will work to my fullest extent to make sure that I can cooperate with the Senate and in working with a plan, and I will be open to ideas of how we can accomplish education for our rural schools. We're getting hurt in the rural schools from the inequities in the foundation formula.
Being involved in higher education for many years as an instructor, and serving for a while on the school board, and being a student for many years, I'm a proponent of education. I understand the value of that education, and I think we agree, certainly your last 3 speakers, we agree we'd like to fully fund the foundation formula. I think the difference between my opponent and myself is I have ideas about growing the economy and job growth in Missouri, and I have the background, we'll work on that in Jefferson City so that we can increase our revenue and get back to full funding.